From Beverly Hills here, Christian. I guess how late is it there right now?
It's not too bad. It's 5 o'clock in the evening.
Oh, okay, all right. So we're not interrupting your dinner or anything.
No problem at all. Cool. Still in the office.
Awesome. Well, thank you for doing this. So we reached out to a bunch of clients, fans of the brand, and gave them the opportunity to send in questions for us to ask you. So in my hand here, I've got all these questions, and I'm here with two of your latest and greatest.
Oh, great!
Jumeirah and the Jesko. Sorry,
fantastic.
Sorry, they're not with you. They're with me.
Well, we have plenty of cars here as well, so that's fine.
Thank you. Yeah. It's funny. So this is my first time, obviously, seeing both of them in person. But I was fortunate enough to be in Geneva with you when you unveiled the Jesko. This is my first time seeing the Absolute in person. And it's amazing. The car.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Really appreciate it.
Yeah. So like I said, people submitted questions, and I'm going to go ahead and kick that off if that's okay with you.
Absolutely.
Awesome. So Tristan asked, will the Jesko in production form sound as good as the black prototype vehicle that's being shown in some spy videos?
Yes. Absolutely. That is the actual car with the actual exhaust. So that is what it sounds like.
Fantastic. It sounds amazing, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I mean, the way that thing shifts and it revs, it's just shocking. I mean, it doesn't have any flywheel, and the crankshaft and connecting rod and pistons are the lightest for any production V8. So, it can go from like 800 RPM to 8,000 if you blip it in 0.2 seconds. It's just insane. And then you have a 9-speed gearbox, so the gears are really, really tight. So you get this kind of motorcycle feel just going through the revs, and of course light speed shifting on top of it. So,
yeah, like I said, it looks and sounds incredible. I mean, it almost looks like the one that I saw was it kind of doing the U-turn on the runway and then just going for it, and it almost looked sped up. It didn't look real, but obviously it clearly was.
It feels pretty unreal, actually. So we were so excited to have more people experience it very shortly.
Yeah. So kind of on the same topic, it says, how did you manage to make the Jesko sound so unbelievably good despite the car being turbocharged? And that was from Chris.
It's a very good question. So I would put it like it's a complete tune for efficiency and power through the whole breathing system of the engine. It starts with a very open filter, very smooth passage through the intercoolers, a carbon fiber intake plenum that actually gives some sound from the carbon fiber box outside of the turbo system, so you get a little bit this normally aspirated sound from that direction. And then the exhaust is extremely smooth, very few bends, a big wastegate as well. So I mean, we are wastegating quite a lot to have low back pressure and free breathing turbos. So that is a free passage of sound around the turbo. And then it's a 4-inch pipe system, titanium 4-inch pipe system, emitting into kind of a trumpet titanium end piece that starts resonating with the frequency of the engine. So all those things together create this quite unreal sound for a turbo V8.
All right, well, there you have it. There's the recipe for an amazing sound. Hopefully any manufacturer watching, they now know what to do.
Actually, what I tend to do is when we design the exhaust system, I tend to take up the pipes and the end pieces and kind of scream and resonate through them at kind of the frequency of an engine. You can really get a sense for the different tones just by actually using your voice in the pipes. It's pretty cool.
Really?
Yeah.
I would have never guessed that. Never guessed that. That's awesome. And do you do that, by the way? Is it only you, or is there like a
people are laughing at me here a little bit because I tend to kind of make this engine sounds with the mouse and playing around and kind of trying to be the engine. So I'm the laughing stock of that. here.
Well,
So.
actually, here we've got Krister here. Come around over here. I was hoping you were going to tell me that he was the pipe yeller. I was going to go ahead and have him, do some, Swedish pipe yodeling or whatever.
Yeah.
It is.
Right.
Sounds amazing.
I focus on transporting the cars.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good job too.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, another question. This one's a really good one. This is from Vinny. Do you see it as inevitable for all supercars to eventually utilize a fully electric drivetrain?
Well, that is an extremely interesting question. So we all hear these tales about sort of the combustion engine being killed off and not allowed anymore. Most of these regulations say fossil fuels and let's say emittance of CO2 is going to be forbidden, not necessarily the combustion engine. So we believe you can be comparatively or similarly environmentally benign and CO2 neutral with a combustion engine if you run on completely renewable fuels. That's why we have in the Jumeirah, for example, the free valve system, where we can cold start, warm start on 100% alcohols, which can come from 100% renewable sources, which can be transported in transport systems running on same or similar fuels that are 100% renewable. So these fuels can come from algae or even solar stations that convert solar energy into liquid energy. Or if you want to go extreme, you can use volcanol from Iceland, which converts the CO2 emittance from the volcanoes into methanol, and they call it volcanol. And if you transport that volcanol on a vessel powered by volcanol, on a truck powered by volcanol to your house storage or a fuel station, you are CO2 neutral to that point, and then you put it in the car. And also with these kind of new particle traps and extreme catalytic converters and free valve systems and so on, you can be in some areas of the world you're kind of emitting cleaner emissions than you suck into the engine. You basically burn off particles that are in the atmosphere around you, so you're kind of a cleaner in a sense. You do of course create CO2 in the emission, but that is from a renewed source from the beginning, so it's a zero game. So we believe that you can make a lighter, environmentally benign car as an EV with less natural resources and less weight, and then you can combine it with hybrid or not. And our plan is kind of to do that as long as we're allowed and as long as it makes sense and as long as we feel good about contributing to CO2 reduction with those technologies and making more interesting cars by doing it.
Yeah, so first of all, I didn't know any of that, and it's funny because it's such a big debate in the car community right now. The direction that things are going. You see a lot of these fully electric cars that are soon to be coming to market.
Sure.
And it kind of begs the question, what are these cars going to sound like? What's really going to actually differentiate them if they're all just run off battery?
And I would like to say I'm not an EV antagonist. I love EVs. I've been driving Teslas as daily drivers for the last 9 years, and this for sure has its place. But in the short term, there is going to be a huge cell shortage, and you also have to really have control over the mining situation and this and that. So there is this kind of play, short term or long term, for alternatives that in many ways makes more sense for the environment, and especially in this hyper growth of EV cars out there, that there needs to be an alternative that is equally good in order to handle this transition. And we of course mix and match. We introduced with the Regera the world's first 800 volt propelled car 2 years before the Porsche Taycan. And we really have the world's most extreme EV technology, and we can easily make an EV. That is kind of easier for us even to do than mixed match. But we're not looking for easy, we're looking for ultimate. And in a sports car, sound is not a bad thing, and making it light is of course great. So therefore we're kind of mixing and matching in the way we see as a best fit for each time period.
Yeah. No, it's a very elegant solution. I mean, it's because you still retain, the sound, and there's something about the internal combustible engine that is it's a bit more romantic. You'd have to agree. I mean, as much as the other stuff,
it's a bit
like
of a more of a living creature, right?
Right.
It has this more of a pulse to it, a throb. It speaks more to you. So from an emotional perspective, I mean, if you're going to drive something like a Mercedes S-Class or a Rolls-Royce, I would say, yeah, fine, rather electric than diesel, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And even for some sporty cars, it can be absolutely fine. But if you're looking for this maximum experience and emotional involvement, I think there is this kind of several levels of engagement with the throb of a combustion engine into the emotional of driving and having a lighter, more engaging car, basically.
Yeah. No, I absolutely. I could.
But you have to be able to somehow do it with a clean conscience, and I think we're nailing that one. So.
Absolutely. Let's see here. From Madhyar, is there a new car coming this year, like last year's Geneva show? And will there be a special edition Jesko?
Very good question. So, yeah, this year there is no Geneva Motor Show, which is really a shame. And we basically always try to have something exciting and new to show one way or the other. Of course, last year was a huge reveal for us at the non-existing Geneva show, which we kind of made a video out of because we had built a stand and everything.
What was your own show? You guys made the whole Geneva show just your show.
Exactly, and we had the Jumeirah to show off and this beautiful stand and everything. So it was kind of a very strange situation. But I would say we really loaded the gun last year, and we've had this, of course, Corona year like everyone else, and focused on getting Regeras out and making the best out of that, and making sure we hit the ground running with the Jesko coming into play this year into production, and keeping the Jumeirah program on track. So in the next let's say year or two, year and a half, there will be no new introductions of Koenigseggs, but of course we always have stuff brewing back in our skunk works because that's who we are. We need to move on from here. We only make limited editions. The Jeskos are all sold out since long, and the Jumeirah is ticking away and looking to be sold out within the very near future. And we've sold during this year, when it's been really hard to show them. We're really deep into the sales and looking to finish it fairly soon. So of course we need to look what's next after that. So for sure there's stuff coming, but I would say for this year the big news is getting the Jesko on the road and into customer hands, and finalizing the Riga Pro.
Seeing both these cars in person, I don't think you really need to show anything else. I mean, this is a pretty stacked deck right here. So it's
well, thank you,
amazing.
Thank you.
Well, this is a little bit of a different one from Owen. Do you think there'll be a Koenigsegg rally in Southern California in the near future?
I really hope so. I had actually planned to be in California this week to meet you guys, Jay Leno and a few others, but this situation with the COVID is kind of lingering on, and but I do believe we're all seeing the end of it one way or the other. I mean, I believe in 6 months we will be able to move quite freely. So that will be one of the things on the top of our bucket lists to get that exciting drives up and running.
It will probably make for an even better rally because people will be so excited to get together at that point that I think the turnout.
I hope so.
Will be
I hope so. Absolutely.
Okay, actually, this is a fun. So Mark asked, "What is your favorite feature of the Koenigsegg Jesko?"
The favorite feature of the Koenigsegg Jesko.
Actually, if you could, I'm going to add a little detail. How about the absolutes? Because since I'm standing here with it, that way, if it's something I can see on the outside, I can just go over to it.
Yeah. So I think starting with the let's say track focused Jesko, the favorite feature of it is that it truly feels. And this is a bit strange. I mean, a go-kart is a very simple thing and not a very expensive vehicle, but it truly feels like a monstrous, huge, easy to throw around go-kart combined with a super bike. And what what enables that is, of course, the lightness, the chassis stiffness, the suspension, the new Cup 2R tires, the light speed transmission, the no flywheel, the super rev happy engine, the lightness and feedback of the controls. But it basically gels with you, and you're synaptically connected, and wherever you point and squirt, that is what happens, instantly without thinking about it. So it's basically the sum of all parts creating the monster go-kart feel.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because in the car community, people will actually describe when they're trying to usually give praise to a sports car. They'll usually say, "Oh, it's like a go-kart," and it's funny to compare it to something that, like you said, is so simple and so
available
cheap
to anyone. So
right. But it's so pure. It's so
yes.
pure. Like that is kind of like the genesis of when you're spending all this money and putting in all this technology and all these man hours, you're trying to actually replicate this very simple but extremely pleasurable machine.
Exactly. It's interesting, isn't it? And to be able to do that with luggage space, 2 seats, a top speed of over 250 miles per hour, and range and crash safety and environmental aspects and all of these things together makes to recreate the go-kart in that sense difficult.
Right. Yeah. No, that's amazing. So, and actually, like I said, I'm going to ask you, what is your favorite part of the Jesko Absolute?
Well, I think how sleek it is, given the amount of downforce we still have. I mean, it's so naked, but it's still got a very good amount of downforce, and also these kind of I don't know, Viking helmet wingtips or whatever we should call them. We originally decided to put them there to increase the already good high-speed stability, but you can never have enough high-speed stability at the amazing speeds this car is capable of. But that they, at the same time, surprisingly reduced drag, which was something we didn't expect. And when we started seeing that effect, we started shaping them more and more for that effect as well. That's why they're kind of stretching back a little bit with that top tip. And they're creating vortices from the tips of these that spins over the rear of the car and reduces the wake behind the car. So even though they stick into the air and create directional stability, they reduce the drag of the car by reducing the wake of the car. So I think that is pretty cool. And also the subtle changes between the track and the Absolute makes them truly feel like they're both needed for different reasons. They're I mean, fundamentally very similar, but these small changes, one is for maximum track usage and one is for top speed and road usage, makes them so different. But what many people might not know is that I think the Absolute is as enjoyable on the track as the track focused version, because it's very playful. With slightly less than half of the downforce, you're not as heavily stuck into the ground, so it's actually more driftable. People kind of misunderstand. A lot of downforce and a lot of grip makes a car less driftable than a car with less downforce and less grip. Right. So you have this massive power, this incredibly sophisticated chassis with super good mechanical control, slightly less downforce. You can really do these huge power slides in a very easily controlled manner with the Absolute. So it's a extremely fast, extremely fun track weapon as well, but just not as fast around the track as the track focused version.
No, I like. Well, it's it's like each variant is mission specific. I like that.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So let's see here. Next one, moving on. This will be a lengthy one, but this is a good one. I'm actually eager to hear this. Can you explain more of the start to finish developmental process, starting from a conceptual idea all the way to the finished product?
Yeah, that is a very interesting process. So usually it starts with a brainstorm where we gather different functions of the company. It's anything from engineering, homologation, market, sales, aftermarket. And we kind of say, where are we today? We need to start a new program. What's happening in the world? we don't look so much at what our competitors are doing, because we kind of want to focus on our own realm and our own thing, really, rather than just comparing to what everyone else is doing. So it's more like, where are we? Who are we? Where is the world going? And what is in our capability to achieve? And that side of thing, usually we kind of put to the side and ignore, and just look at what do we want to achieve. And then we write this down basically on 2 pieces of paper or so with bullet points, and then we get to work. And what we've learned over the years, it's kind of difficult to predict when you're inventing new technologies and new solutions in a program. Like in the Jesko, we have the Lightspeed transmission as one big thing. In the Regera, a completely new drivetrain with no gearbox, direct drive, torque vectoring, 800 volt, never seen before. When we start out, it's kind of an idea that we start simulating, but we don't have all the answers. So it's kind of difficult to say it's going to take this long, it's going to cost this much, and this is what we expect. It's more like we set out, we have a hunch we can do this, there is something in, let's simulate and go. And instead of trying to plan it in detail, we solve step by step by step and keep on running. And if that feels good, we keep on running. And if it suddenly doesn't, or something pops up that it can't be done, we try to quickly redirect and do something else as interesting or better with the knowledge we gained. So, and what this has resulted in is that we can probably do more and more quickly than others that try to pre-plan everything from the beginning and don't dare to innovate as much. So we kind of trust our ability in innovating and solving our dreams along the way and hitting the target of getting it into SOP more or less on time and giving our customers the most extreme, exciting experience we're capable of, if that makes sense.
No, it totally does. No. Let's see here. Okay, this is another great one from Nicholas. How did you come up with the door system?
So our absolutely first prototype back in we started in 1994. It was finished in 1996. It was a silver car called the Koenigsegg CC. It had traditional doors. We had the same look of them. They were these chunky, big, fat doors, because the canopy of the car is kind of as small as it's allowed to be for Le Mans racing, and the car was 2 meters wide, and it gives these kind of chunky doors. And I noticed trying to get in and out in parking lots was very, very difficult. First, I had to move the thick door out, and then I had to try to get myself out, and it was usually not very much space. So then I started thinking, what other alternatives are there to open these kind of doors? And we started fiddling around, and we looked at kind of the Countach, Lamborghini way, but then you basically have to climb underneath a little bit, and it's a bit in front of you, you have to walk around it. And one thing led to another. We came up with this parallelogram, and the first version was a little bit cruder. It was still this kind of double system which moves it out, and then you turn it, but you turn it after the moving out. And we noticed that people, when they close the door, they pull it down like a Lambo door, and then it was outside of the car, and then you had to pull it in, or people just pushed it out and forgot to push it up. So then I came up with the idea of putting a gear in, so it's forced to do those 2 things at the same time. And people in the close to the project so said that will never work, because you will hit the bodywork going in and out in that angle and so on. But we ended up engineering the whole door apparatus in the bodywork, and the angles of the doors and the angles of the seals to fit that motion. So we managed to do one motion going out and up without hitting anything, and closing nicely. And the advantage is, of course, quite obvious on the car behind you, that you can have this huge long door, not protruding very much outside of the car. You can parallel park right next to another car, and you have full access to the door opening. So what seems like to be like a thing to creating a spectacle is actually there primarily, or pretty much only, for practical reasons, that it has a cool sense to it. It's just a side effect. And this is the latest version of the door hinge that we patented for the Jesko also. So not only is it moving out and rotating, it's also moving out, rotating, and the whole hinge is twisted, so it also moves up. So that's a new patent we added 1.5 years ago, which means we have full curb clearance also underneath the front of the door. On the previous Koenigseggs, if you have these high US kind of storm drain sidewalks, you have to park a little bit outside of them so you don't hit the tip of the door, which is not a big problem. But here they're tall enough to cater for that as well by this twisted feature of the hinge. So no more moving parts, just a twisted angle of the hinge, so it also moves upwards while it's twisting and moving out.
Yeah, once again, a very elegant solution, and it turned out spectacular. I've had the very, very good and lucky fortune to have driven a number of your cars, and it seems like such a simple thing, but having been in so many different cars, the ingress and egress out of your cars is really, really easy, regardless of what size you are as well. It's I've never seen anyone look silly getting in and out of a Koenigsegg.
Well, I mean the hyper mega cars Koenigsegg, of course, lower and smaller than the Jumeirah. So, but I would say, given their low height, they're as easy as they can be. Yeah. And the Jumeirah is easier. It's a little bit taller, and of course, an even bigger door opening. So that's super easy to get in and out of.
Yeah. Let's see here. Actually, we might have touched on this. The tech in the Jumeirah. This is from Christopher, by the way. The tech in the Jumeirah is next level, almost completely game-changing with regards to the range of the car. Is it possible that tech could make it into a platform that is sustainable for, and this, you gave an example of $100,000. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so absolutely. I mean, a tuned-down version of the technology in high volume is no more expensive than similar components in high volume. So we're talking piston, connecting rods, valves. I mean, we don't need sodium-filled hollow stem exhaust valves if we only do 350 horsepower instead of 600. Right. And we don't need the extreme version of the most extreme version of ceramically coated forged pistons if you go down in power and up in volume. So what makes the car expensive is the low volume and running into the wall. Performance-wise, technology-wise, you have to go to Inconel, titanium, ceramics, extra cooling systems, and shrinking that down again. I mean, that is what drives the costs. So if you scale down like 20-30% and raise volume by 100 times or 1,000 times, the price becomes completely different. It's fully scalable to do that. And I mean, it's like you can have a super high-performing car like a Nissan GTR or now the new McLaren that was unveiled a day or two ago. I mean, what a bang for the buck! But it cannot it can't hold a stick performance-wise against what we're doing, but at a much higher price. Right. So to get that ultimate, you have to accept that you're running into the wall, and you have to pay multiple times for low volume exclusivity and that bleeding edge performance. But for sure, it's fully scalable down to something much simpler and cheaper, if that would be of anyone's interest. Yeah.
So actually, I've got a question for you then. Is there any interest in selling on some of your technology once you've done it? I mean, is there any interest in partnering with another manufacturer and providing a drivetrain for them, or patenting what you've done and allowing that to be in another vehicle?
We're actually looking into that more and more, because we're developing so much technology now for our low volume cars that's interesting for so many other, especially car companies, of course. But not only that, like the TFG, we're looking at marine and aerospace applications. To have a super light, powerful engine with 600 horsepower in an airplane that can run on alcohol and renewable fuel is very, very interesting compared to, for example, an electric aeroplane, because the battery doesn't get lighter the further you fly, but a tank of renewable fuel gets emptied like a normal airplane tank, so you get more and more efficient as you fly. So you can be kind of comparatively efficient and CO2 benign as an electric plane, but have much longer range. So that is one side of the spectrum. But for car companies like the the Lightspeed transmission could fit basically into any modern hyper mega car and improve weight, shifting time, and amounts of gears to anything we've seen out there. Of course, we're focusing on first getting it into the ESCO and out, but after that, we're more than happy to sell it to others. And it's actually kind of almost simpler to assemble. It's fewer parts as we're compounding gears,
Yeah.
and it's lighter, so it's very scalable to put in other cars. And we've had quite a lot of inquiries, and we do actually sell some technology and some services to others. But we're very much a company so far geared to cater to our own needs primarily.
Right.
So we're kind of learning and setting up organization to take care of these other opportunities and customers. The technology is there, it is scalable, it is suitable, but we need to have an organization that is capable of dealing with these customers, which is a completely different nature to our dealers and end users that we're dealing for full cars, of course. But it is an opportunity that is very exciting and that we are exploring, and we will explore even more for the future.
Yeah, you're right. It's amazing to think of all those other applications, because you're right. We're so used to a certain type of architecture, right? In these machines, these vessels that we use, whether, like you said, whether it's by land, water, air, and you're right. It actually makes more sense, since we've engineered these vehicles around these types of drivetrains, like you said, to just basically find a better fuel source.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with a combustible engine. It's what it's combusting.
It's what it's running on and how clean it's running.
Exactly.
Basically.
Yeah. So.
And that is interesting you mentioned that. Actually, people think about efficiency means environmentally benign, but and the combustion engine is less efficient than an electric drivetrain. But this is a bit of a misunderstanding, because in the universe you can never destroy energy. So it's always kind of existing in there in one shape or the other. And it's not about being more or less efficient. It's about not emitting CO2 more than you have renewed it. And it's about being clean. Those are the important things for the environment, not about being efficient. Efficient means how long range do you have or not. Right. Let's say we could have our combustion engine running, doing nothing on the dyno here all day long. If we emit less pollutants than we combust, and we're CO2 neutral, and we're going nowhere, that is not bad for the environment.
Right.
You see what I mean? So there's this confusion about efficiency and our environmental consciousness.
Yeah.
And you can never destroy energy in the end.
Yeah.
So efficiency is kind of a moot point. It's more how far can you go is the efficiency point.
Yeah. No, it's a great way to look at it. This is another good. Let's see here. Let's see. So we'll ask this one from Zaid. What is your favorite car that you've made to date?
Wow, I do keep on getting that question, and I always say
it's got to be hard. That's got to be like
it's like comparing between your children.
It's like gonna say, right? It's got to be like picking your favorite child.
I would put it like this. I remember when we only had like quite simplistic manual shifting cars, and we started getting more and more techy, and we felt, oh, that is so old school and not so exciting. I do find those cars today very pure and simple and light and very exciting for what they are. So I would say, rather than choosing my favorite car, I think our early cars are growing more and more on me as I get older.
So a little fit of nostalgia every now and then.
Yeah, maybe I'm just getting old. I don't know.
So the next question comes from Sunprit. He says, my question is, when will we see the Jumeirah doing some road testing? And will Koenigsegg go fully electric?
Yeah, we are already road testing the Jumeirah, and I guess we will probably release some behind-the-scene footage quite soon. It is pretty cool. And what was the other question?
Oh, and the other one was, when is Koenigsegg thinking about going fully electric? But I asked that just because it's written down, but you actually did a very good job of kind of already answering what you think the solution to that is. I mean, am I wrong in saying and kind of answering this for you by saying that, until you're kind of forced to go fully electric, you'd always like to explore these kind of, for lack of a better word, hybrid kind of solutions?
Yeah, kind of. I mean, we're with the Jesko, we're absolutely non-hybrid.
Yeah.
So we're kind of mixing and matching what makes sense. In the Regera, we're very much hybrid because the Regera is our kind of gentleman car statement. You have this monstrous performance and smooth as velvet, and still actually super exciting around the racetrack because it's still light and it has torque vectoring. So it is super fast around the racetrack, but it's just this velvet monster, so smooth in traffic and everything. So that made a lot of sense going hybrid. The Jesko is just the ultimate track weapon or top speed weapon. And as I've said before, it's the most go-kart feel Koenigsegg ever. So it's a completely different statement. But in the end, we're kind of propulsion agnostic. Whatever makes sense from environmental, weight, emotion, comfort, sportiness. And maybe there comes a day where we say, yeah, for this purpose, pure electric is fine and it covers all our bases, and we will do one of those or maybe more of those. So it's all kind of depending on the criteria we set up. We have the capability of developing the most amazing electric cars. It's kind of easier than what we're doing, but we're not about easy. We're about ultimate experience. So one day that a pure EV might be the ultimate experience for what we're doing, but I don't have the answer for that right now.
Yeah, you should coin that phrase. I like that, propulsion agnostic. That's actually really cool.
Thank you.
Let's see here. So yeah. So from Dominic, and this is going to be another one. What was your motivation to produce cars like this?
Well, it's basically trying to make the most exciting car I can at every given moment in time, with different kind of focuses. Of course, the Regera and the Jumeirah have a certain focus. The Jesko has another focus, and what we're doing for the future coming up might have a different focus. But it's kind of this idea: it should be really, really good at this set of things, which should be quite broad. We always like broad in the sense of we keep on usually giving a convertible and a coupe in the shape of one with no drawback, or comfort and performance and lightness with very little compromise, or added creature comforts like in the Jumeirah, where we have 4 sets of luggage, 4 full seats, 8 cup holders, 4 warm, 4 cold, inductive charging, like anything you can wish for, free connectivity, front and rear in the car. It's like there is no end, but still as light as it possibly can be, as sporty as it possibly can be, with a really high level of comfort. That is kind of the Jumeirah. So it's about pushing ourselves to the limit within the kind of vision we have for that car, and not looking at what the other parts of the market are doing or not. We don't care so much. We do our own thing, and try to do it as good as we possibly can with who we are. I think that's the simple answer.
Absolutely. And actually, kind of, we were talking about the genesis of obviously what was your motivation, and this is actually a good one. And I'll kind of add my own little piece to it. It says, is it still possible to become successful making an auto company now? And I'm going to kind of add to that, knowing what you know now and where the world is now. Would you have embarked on this endeavor of doing this, if you knew everything that you knew now back when you first started?
Well, actually, yes. And when I started in 1994, there were no startups in the car industry. It was controlled by 4 or 5 huge 100-year-old giants that didn't allow anyone into the marketplace. The sports car makers had all been bought up by larger car companies, and you couldn't start up. And of course, I was young. I was 22 years old. I didn't have any previous experience in the automotive industry. I was in Sweden, which, of course, okay, we have Volvo, Saab, and we have airplanes and trucks, but we're not famous for making sports cars, before Koenigsegg at least. But I didn't care. I had a dream. Since I was a kid, I wanted to make my own sports car. I thought if I make it really good, maybe someone will buy the first one, and then I can make another one. And if that's good, I probably can make another one. And that's what I want to do, come hell or high water. And on top of that, I always believed, and I still do believe, that if you put your mind to it and you give it your all, and you're not second kind of guessing yourself, or you go all in whatever happens, you can do pretty much anything. And I wanted to make that feel true and put up a real challenge. And I was young, I didn't have any family yet, and so on. And I said, if I don't do it now, I probably will never do it. And I want to build my own car. I want to prove to myself anything is possible, and I'm going to put my mind to it. And everyone's probably going to laugh at me and tell me I'm stupid and crazy, and that's fine, because yeah, that it's what it looks like, and maybe I am, but I'm going to do it anyway. And when you have that kind of outset, you're kind of unstoppable, because you're already prepared for the resistance that's coming your way. And so therefore, yes, I would have done it even if I knew how difficult it was, because I assumed it would be super difficult. And nowadays, there are a lot of startups. The car industry, these giants don't any longer have this iron grip around the market. And
Right.
It's almost like their old brands almost work against them in this renewable, environmentally conscious age, where we have always been a part of the renewable. I mean, we did the world's first environmentally conscious sports car in 2007 with the CCXR. It was our first E85 capable car. It was pretty much before Tesla. And I remember at the Geneva Motor Show that the guys from Ferrari and Lamborghini kind of, what are you doing? No one cares about the environments in sports car. What are you calling it the flower power? What is nonsense? 2-3 years later, they started to become quiet, and 5 years later, they were not laughing anymore. But so I think this kind of, those giants are almost, their mass is almost working against them in a way.
Right.
And we are becoming a little bit almost old school as a startup, and you have all these new EV startups now, left and right, of course. And that is very, I think, exciting, because I felt very, very alone trying to or being allowed to get into this marketplace, and now it's a completely different story.
Right. Let's see here. Seeing if I should go in a specific order. So this is actually a great one from Ayman. When will the Jesko and the Jumeirah hit the roads? And actually, I'm gonna make that a two-part question, as it will hit the road in different areas or different regions of the world. So when will it hit the roads for the first time, and when will it do it for North America?
Yeah, so we're delivering the first Jeskos at the end of the year. We're starting up the production line in June, building a few cars for ourselves on the production line, then customer cars. So customers' cars are basically coming out at the end of the year into the marketplace. The first marketplace will be Europe. US will follow about 12 months after that. And at that point, we will starting to get also out our first Jumeirahs, which will have kind of the same sequence, Europe first, US later, because the reason for that is US homologation is one step further than Europe, so it takes a little bit longer. And it's also good to get out the cars in the marketplace close to us first. Hence the process. So that's basically the timeline.
Awesome. Next one here we have, this is a great one from Carter. How do you come up with the names for your cars?
It's kind of a brainstorming process and playing with words, and it kind of the principle of the names have shifted over the years. I mean, in the beginning we had this kind of CC8S, which stood for Competition Coupe 8-cylinder Supercharged. Then it converted into the CCR, which was the Competition Coupe Revolution, and then then we started getting into words and trying to kind of figure out local Swedish words that sound okay in other languages. So we have the Trevita, which means 3 whites. We have, Jumeirah, which means give more. We kind of abbreviate the word, so it's GE, which is give, and Mera is more. So we put that into a word that hopefully sounds pronounceable in most countries and doesn't mean anything offensive. and agera is Swedish for to take action. Regera is Swedish for to rain, not water from the sky, but to rain as a king or something. So we've gone into this kind of playing with Swedish words that have a meaning for what we're doing that sounds pronounceable in other languages and are non-offensive, hopefully.
Yeah. And like I mentioned earlier, I was fortunate enough to be there when you unveiled the Jesko, but it's funny, I knew it for the longest time. I thought I was going to Geneva to see the Ragnarok. And so
yes.
it was really special to be there. And when you made the announcement that you were naming it after your father, it was...
Yeah, so that was also, of course, breaking the mold a little bit. It's not like putting two Swedish words together. It was a homage to my father, who, during a tough time in the business creation, really pitched in as an entrepreneur and helped me. And he's now over 8 years old, and it was just an amazing opportunity to give him a homage. And it actually kind of came up at the end of the program to the idea of calling it the Jesko, and the working title was Ragnarök. And then we were pretty happy then when we saw that Aston Martin used kind of the Valkyrie, which is related to the Norse mythology, that we didn't call it the Ragnarök, not to confuse people.
Right. Here's a great one from Anthony. And then one that a lot of manufacturers are kind of going in this direction. Can we expect to see a Koenigsegg SUV in the future?
Well, I would
Jumeirah
say
is kind of the answer to that, isn't it? I mean,
yes. I understand there is a huge interest in the market for SUVs. I'm just personally not a big fan of SUVs. We have SUVs in the family, but of course you have a great vantage point in traffic and the scenery. But as a performance car, even if you can make it great with advanced systems that compensate for the high center of gravity and the heavy unsprung weight, you're still fighting things that goes against performance.
Physics are still working against you. You're still
exactly.
2 feet
So
up in the air.
It's a big compromise, and they were originally, to go on rough roads or off road, and then they become more luxury, and then it became sporty. There's kind of this transition from something to something else, which kind of dilutes its original purpose. But if you take something like a Cullinan, that makes a lot of sense. That is a luxury car. It's not a sporty performance car, even though it's sporty enough. But that I think has a purpose. But at Koenigsegg, it would just ruin some of what a Koenigsegg is, and it wouldn't be fully pure. Therefore, I'm very reluctant. I would rather do, if we're doing something with sporty, with some kind of off-roady theme, it would be more like a Parris Dakar version of something, or a Mad Max post-apocalyptic supercar raced up kind of thing. That you would, it would be okay on the street, but fly off of cliffs.
Yeah, no, that would be much more authentic to the brand.
Right.
You guys are known for being a very fun brand, so that car actually would be right in your brand values.
I think
something that you just wanted, just something else fun to do that isn't on a paved surface.
Right.
So this is from Jacob. When you say that the Koenigsegg Jesko will be the fastest Koenigsegg ever, what do you mean by that?
Well, we're talking top speed here, and so when we started developing the track version, which was the first we unveiled, we saw, wow, with this amount of downforce, it's still very, very slippery. And then we removed the wing and that in the simulation. So wow, the basic shape has this really low drag compared to its cooling capacity, compared to its wide tires. So if we tune this a little bit, it will be amazingly fast. So then we created the shape of the Absolute, which has a CD of under 0.28, which is absolutely unbelievable for a car like this. And we started seeing with the 9-speed gearbox, with the gear ratios, we can have this really fun short speed gear speed sensation at lower speeds, but we can really stretch our legs in 9-speed. So it has this huge breadth of capabilities, from fun on a track to extreme top speed. But it is kind of faster than anyone should ever go. and we're talking about over probably 300 miles per hour and probably over 500 kilometers per hour. Everyone can calculate this with the drag numbers and the frontal area and the power we have and the gear ratios that we have presented. Anyone can make their own calculations, what they believe. But what we've seen with the Agera and so on is that our simulation calculations seem to stack up to reality really well. So it will probably be super extremely fast. There are no public roads that are really suitable for that speed, and it's even difficult to reach top speed on the longest kind of runways for space shuttles or something like that. And somewhere down the line, it compromises other areas of the car's capabilities because you will have longer gears and so on to be able to do it. So we see no logical reason to ever go faster than the Absolute is capable of. So from now on, from the Absolute and onwards, the cars will be slower in top speed for those reasons.
Well, and he asked a two-part question, and I was going to ask this as well, which is it actually leads right into what you were saying. It says, will Koenigsegg move more towards breaking track lap records rather than top speed?
Yeah, so I would put it like this: we're focusing on total performance always. It's kind of if you have an envelope of opportunities, like here you have grip, low weight, top speed, comfort, engagement, practicality, convertible or coupe or whatever, we're trying to maximize that envelope on every car with slightly different focuses, but without compromise, and that is pretty much impossible. But that is always our objective, and our cars are amazing around racetracks. I mean, we have already several lap records on several tracks, and customers come back to us and say, wow, I mean, I couldn't imagine how fast it was around a track with this kind of top speed. Right. So that has always been our focus as well. It's just that these top speed numbers and accelerating and braking to extreme speed with super stability, they're kind of overwhelming from social media and interest response, because there are other cars that are also good around tracks. So, but that they're capable of that, and having their track ability and their sportiness together with that is something completely unique from my perspective. And we will not focusing on making the cars slower. We will just not focusing on making them faster and making everything else even better in parallel.
All right. No, that's great. And the final question is from Carl. And again, it's perfect timing for what we were talking about. When roughly do you plan on holding the top speed attempt for the Jesko Absolute?
That's a very good question. So it is a lot of factors that come into play. We need to find a place where we can do it. And if it's a public road, we need to negotiate with the authorities, and we need to have the right weather, and we need to do some practice runs, probably somewhere else at a slower speed. So it is a bit of a program, and we will, I would say, start focusing on looking at doing that sometime after we started getting the Jeskos out into the market, because that's our main focus right now. I mean, we sold out the Jesko several years back, and we really want to focus on getting them out to the customers as soon as possible. And when that is kind of streamlined, then we will have a go at it. A little bit like we did with the Agera RS. There were already a lot of cars in the market before that happened. So,
well, look, I want to thank you for taking the time to answer these questions. I'm sure everyone that wrote in is thrilled to have gotten their question answered by you. It's been great spending my morning with you, being with these cars. I really wish you were here in person. Hopefully that happens sooner than later. I'm hoping that we usually see each other at Geneva in March, and it's usually August for Pebble Beach. So maybe August is still possible for some type of car week meetup. So fingers crossed for that.
I really hope so. That will be amazing. Parris, thank you very much. It was a couple of very interesting questions, and very happy to answer them. And happy to see my babies again. They seem to be well taken care of.
They are. They're in good hands.
Perfect. So all the best to everyone at Agera, and hope to see you soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Christian.
Thank you. Great. Bye.